Hey, Fedheads, welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is episode 60, Spotlight on Fable Cigars. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon. We are broadcast around the world and picked up on the Armed Forces Radio Network, heard around the world. If you've got a podcast device, any sort of phone that connects to the internet, you can tune in either through iTunes or through any of the fantastic podcast apps that are out there. I think we're pretty much covered across the board now. If you have the opportunity, if you're an iTunes user, please toss us a review and some stars. Let us know what you like. Drop us an email here at the show at john@cigarfederation.com, rob@cigarfederation.com. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. We'd love to hear from our listeners. I am joined, as always, by my co-host and friend, Robbie Rass. Rob, what's going on, brother?
Oh, just running late as usual. That's how I do things. That's how we do things.
That's how we do things. We kind of run by the what is it? The tune of our own horn, something?
Seat of our pants.
Seat of our pants.
Crotch rocket.
I know you've had a bit of a day, so I certainly appreciate you being here. I mean, this is kind of the time of the season where things get a little crazy for a double R.
It can get a little squirrely, but it makes up for all those boring days that I had last week. So it's all to the good, man. I'm looking forward to it. We got the Fable cigars here, and we'll get into more detail about that. I posted my review about a month back on this cigar. Really enjoyed it, and so we're looking at a different size this time. This is kind of the big boy. What size?
Is it the Sapta?
The Sapta. It's a Grand Toro. It's a 6 1/4 by 54. And Fable, new company. This cigar is called Fourth Prime, and comes out of Nicasueño.
Nicasueño.
Yeah, exactly. You were down there.
I was.
You were down there, Nicasueño.
Can I just give quick shout? I mean, I'm sure that Skip has got better things to do than watch our ridiculous show, but it was really cool because we kind of set up a last minute, or I should say, Logie Bear set up a last minute showing at the Nicasueño facility, and Skip was more than generous to take his time and show all of us clowns around, and it was awesome. It was a really cool experience. Skip's a super cool guy, super generous with his time. Floated us a couple cigars to smoke, which was cool. Smoked some of the new stuff, which is cool. Great experience.
Nice, yeah. I've love that sound. I don't know if the audio picked that up or not. But
It totally did. It's so fantastic.
Cracking bottles here. Ooh, girl, this stuff is so good. Yeah, I've heard that. I follow Skip on Facebook, and we're Facebook friends, whatever that means, and posts all the stuff on the Instagrams and whatnot, and
the Twitters.
The Nicasueño factory, and I don't know if it's I don't know. I guess you just call it a factory, but they've got some pretty sweet setups back there. So I haven't seen it. I've never been there in person, but it looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's got his. He's got his operation down pretty tight. I mean, Skip. If you've ever met Skip, he's got his act together. It's cool to hear him speak. I think the fun part for me is hearing someone talk about their product. The fun for me in cigars is listening to the people behind the cigars and their passion. It's always kind of cool in their philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. And just about everything that comes out of Nicasueño is highly sought after, for the very least. But making some good sticks out of there.
Yeah, for as much as Logan poo-poos many cigars that exist in the world, he pretty much loves everything out of Skip's factory. Don't tell Skip he said that, but
yeah, I don't know if Logan enjoys something or not as a barometer by which I'm going to live my life, but
no,
he no, he does love him some Roma Craft, and actually we have a Roma Craft giveaway going on, don't we? This is a pretty good segue. I didn't even plan on that.
We sure do. So there's a card, or there should be a card in the broadcast. If you want to click on that card and make Logie Bear very happy, that'll take you to the giveaway page, to which you could be entered to win some tasty Roma Craft. And if you want to send a couple to the Sharing Our Pairings team, send a little love our way. We certainly wouldn't say no.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. I want to pull up some more specifics on this this Fourth Prime here.
And so I was doing some crazy reading. So you do some reading, I can do some reading. I took copious notes because I was like, what's behind this company? I've never heard of them before.
Well, you give the company background, and then I'll jump in and chime in with my review here.
Roger that. So they were founded by Shaw and Sean Kremenet, and I promised myself I wasn't going to screw up his name. I'm sorry, Sean. Sean Kremenetsky. Kremenetsky. See, as a Canadian,
That's not even that hard.
it's not. And as a Canadian, and I'm pretty sure that's Ukrainian or Polish, and we've got tons of Ukrainians and Polish people here. That should just roll off my tongue, but the moment got to me. At any rate, Fourth Prime cigar, they're medium to full strength, full flavor, full aroma. I could definitely tell you, first inch in, I mean, baby, it's a heater. There's some nice pepper going on. This is a full-bodied cigar. I'm digging it. Pennsylvania broadleaf wrapper, and I mean, you look at that, you can definitely see that nice, sheeny, oily Pennsylvania broadleaf wrapper. It's got an Ecuadorian Habano Ligero, Ecuadorian Habano Ligero wrapper. Or binder, pardon me. I'm all over the place today. So I'm sure that's where a lot of that pepper's coming from, because I mean it's just got some bite to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then some Nicaraguan and Dominican filler, which love that Nica tobacco. And then the size names are prime numbers. Now this is way over my head because I'm not a math geek. We've got some members of the Cigar Federation community here that are huge math geeks, and I'm sure they'll geek right out. So this number 7 is the 4th prime number, and their lines reflect that. I'm smoking the Mersenne, which is a 5 1/4 by 56. It's a little bit bigger than what I'd normally smoke, but it's got a really nice box press to it. And I find, and we've talked about this, box press, even on a larger ring gauge, just sits really comfortably in your mouth.
Yeah, I would agree. I couldn't tell you any technical or scientific reasons that make box press better.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are, and I'm sure someone could explain that. Skip could probably explain that. I could not. For me, the one thing that I've noticed about, especially larger ring gauge, like that's a 56, that's a pretty big ring gauge for me.
Yep.
But when it's box pressed like that, it sits a lot easier. I think what am I smoking here? Is this a 52?
54.
Yeah, this is a 54, and so I even thought it was a 52. So that gives you kind of an idea. It's available in 4 sizes. The dock is a Petite Robusto, 4.5 by 52, which is what I smoked and reviewed on CigarFederation.com. The MI is the Grand Corona, 5 3/4 by 46, and the MSR, and then the Mersenne and the Sapta, which is what we're smoking. The MSRP runs from $8 to $9.50,
which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think $8 for a Petite Robusto, mate, on the surface.
On the cusp.
It might feel a little expensive, but I really enjoyed that size. It was a nice smoke. I'm getting a lot more pepper out of this than I was out of the other one, out of the Sapta than I was out of the dock. I think for me the sweet spot is going to be that Grand Corona, that 4 or 5 3/4 by 46, which I haven't smoked yet. I do have a sample of it, but I haven't smoked it. But I think that's going to be the sweet spot for me with this blend.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward. It's nice of them to send us a sample of all the sizes. We've talked about it in shows before. You guys have talked about it a lot in Cigar Chat. Different cigars perform differently at various vitolas. You might find that you smoke a particular vitola like a Toro, and you're like, cigar isn't very good. And then you smoke it as a Corona, and it's magical. And every blend's different. Little bit about the name behind this Mersenne, because they've got a lot of background behind this stuff. I love reading this stuff. It's very cool to me. It's a reference to the 17th century French monk Marie Mersenne, who was a philosopher and mathematician responsible for making leaps in prime number research and was known as the center of world of science and mathematics during the first half of the 1600s. That's a lot. This size is a personal connection to Sean Kremenetsky, whose parents were mathematicians. So that's kind of cool. I mean, personal tie-in. It's got a history tie-in. I love that.
Yeah, and we're gonna have these guys on Cigar Chat here pretty soon. The cigar is available in 4-packs with it's like a Vitola sampler, and I think you can get it from their website. I think it's just Fable Cigars. I know I've got a link to it in my review here. They're gonna hit the shelves in more of a wide. Wider availability, I should say, and different sizes and 5-packs and things like that, starting in April. So coming up right around the corner. So the timing here is pretty good. And sometime in April we'll have have them on Cigar Chat so we can talk about it a little bit more. I see them on Facebook, and I really like. I like the look of just about everything that comes out of Skip's factory.
Yeah.
It's got a very kind of rustic look to it.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and I just kind of dig that. And so the first time I saw these Fourth Prime, they caught my eye. So reached out to them, and I'm glad that I did, because it was a nice cigar to smoke. I think I scored it. Let me scroll down. An 88, which is a 5-pack purchase. I had some issues with the final third. There were, it kind of got some charred and some harsh notes, and when I was chatting with them, I think it just might be the ones that we smoked might have been a little fresh, relatively fresh. So I have a feeling that if these guys get some time on them, a couple of extra months, maybe another 6 months, it's going to be really nice. And I noted that in my review. And this cigar is really out of my comfort zone, but yeah, I said 5-pack with some very real growth potential. I have a feeling this is going to turn into a box split rating with some rest. And I saw they happened to post a review from Half Wheel Up. Saw it posted on Facebook today, and Charlie.
Rhymes with Schmeshmeal?
Yeah, Charlie gave it an 89. So
that's high praise.
Yeah, kind of around. I think he and I were. I didn't really read too much of the notes. I just kind of scrolled down to the bottom to see what the score was. But scoring from the scoring standpoint, he and I were kind of on par. So I don't know what that means, but just.
I think that just validates Charlie's tastes.
I'm just pointing it out. That's the only other review I've seen. I don't think there have been too many. Although I think there's another one from a smaller site that whose name is escaping me. I know there's at least one more, but there's a couple of other smaller sites I'm not really familiar with, like Cigar Jedi. And although it sounds like I'd like the guy because I'm a big Star Wars fan myself, but maybe it was a site like that. I'm not sure. But those are the only reviews that I've seen. So
now, has Logan smoked this? Because I feel like this would be right in his wheelhouse. It's got just tons and tons of spice and pepper. It's very, very in your face, which, admittedly, I love as well. It is starting to give away on the pepper. It's starting to get into the creamy phase, which I dig. But I feel like this is super in his wheelhouse.
That spice is going to melt away here pretty soon.
Nice.
And because I think you're smoking the same ring gauge that I smoked, right? No, you're smoking the bigger one. So I'm curious to see how that works. Holding the cigar right here, and the smoke just comes up right in front of my camera.
Yeah, it's smoke. It's got some great
it's a
smoke
smoky
output.
cigar,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, for me, I'm still kind of in that spice that kind of get you right in the face spice. You get it on the tongue, you get it on the retrohale, but there's those rich notes that are starting to creep in, and a little bit of leathery notes and some kind of rich molasses type chewy flavors,
Very
if
chewy.
you will, are coming in. So. We've got a couple of pairings. I went super aggressive with my pairings here. Like I've got 2 beers and some rye. So
it's going to get a little loose in the Double R household tonight.
It's getting loose, baby. But I went aggressive with these pairings. I remember when I smoked it that this is what I thought. I thought it would go well with a nice, like a richer stout. And maybe like a spicier bourbon. So I went with the rye. It's got a little bit extra spice to it. And then I went kind of off the rails with the Backwoods Bastard, but I love that beer. So we'll get into. You want to get into the pairings, or?
I will, but before we do that, I just want to remind our audience that you're tuned into Sharing Our Pairings, episode 60, Spotlight on Fable Cigars. Thanks very much for all our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners who are out there in the world, keeping us safe on this warm spring day as we sit and smoke and drink and have a good time. We do very much appreciate your service. Thanks very much for all our podcast listeners who are out there in droves. I just see our podcast numbers day after day just growing and growing and growing, and I love to see that. If you have any ideas for the show, if there's someone you want to see on the show, a particular cigar, please drop us a line. We're always willing. We're crazy here. We don't sit on our laurels, whatever that means. So, I want to get into it. I went pretty aggressive too. I kind of started as I'm apt to. My comfort zone is the whiskey, and I went with a bottle that my boss got me, and this might be a little bit of me sucking up, and it might be a little me just wanting to drink some scotch. But this is a really cool whiskey that I've not had before. It's Glenkinchie, It's a Glenkinchie 12. Glenkinchie is an East Lothian lowland distillery, and there are not a lot of lowland distilleries left. There used to be hundreds and hundreds of lowland distilleries located 20 minutes north of Edinburgh. So I can say Edinburgh, but I can't say Greenwich. I don't know why that is, but I digress. In the olden days, in the 1800s and 1900s, there were lots and lots of lowland distilleries, but they just kind of fallen off, and there's really only three plus a couple startups now. So there's Glenkinchie, Auchentoshan, and Bladnoch. Of course, you've heard of Auchentoshan. I've never heard of Glenkinchie before, which is a shame because so far the whiskey is fantastic. Founded in 1837, although Diageo will tell you they were founded in 1825. It's a long time ago. Records weren't exactly very sharp.
1857, 1825. Do we really know the
Do
difference?
we really know? Is the 1800s. They use the Kinchy Burn water source, for those who are keeping track. They produce a monster amount of spirit for a distillery of their size. They don't even have a web page, and they produce 1.7 million liters of spirit. How many Freedom gallons is that? Well, let me tell you. It's 449,000 Freedom gallons. And if you paired in or tune into some of our other pairing shows, you'll know that's a lot. I mean, we've had other Scotch distilleries on the show before that do not even remotely have that much production. So, and here's the kicker: they've only got two stills. They've got a wash still and one spirit still, and these guys are producing 449,000 gallons a year, which that's a lot from two stills.
No holidays.
No holidays.
No days off. That's
no
7
days
days
off.
a week, baby.
Just go, go, go. Now, what's cool is I was kind of reading some of the history here. They have the honor of having the largest spirit still in Scotland. The thing holds 30,000 liters or 8,000 gallons in a single still.
That's a big ass still.
That is a beast. It's a beast. So they
You can
describe
say
this as
ass.
yeah, I think I hope you can. We might get an FDA, FTC.
I think
whoever.
you can say ass.
Well,
Well, we've said it
before,
4
we can
times
now,
now,
yeah.
so.
Cat's out of the bag now. They say on the palate it's sweet with a light licorice aftertaste and a dry finish. Definitely got that dry finish. Lots of floral notes. Like a pear on the nose, which is delightful. It might actually be a little light for this cigar because this cigar is a beast. So I'm going to let you talk a little about your pairings as I sip away and wax poetic in my mind.
I was going to. Sounded dirty. I was going to wait on my whiskey, but since you're starting with it, I'll go with the whiskey as well. I'm going with the BulleIT rye, and as you can see, we've enjoyed this because it used to be filled up to here, and now it's down right about here. BulleIT Frontier Whiskey. They're straight 95% rye mash whiskey.
Nice.
And we've talked about BulleIT before on the show. I pulled up the website here, so I'll give you some of the notes. Founded in 1987 by Thomas E. BulleIT, spelled B-U-L-L-E-I-T. And so they've been around since 87. And I mean, there's a lot more information here, but I think we've gone over all of this.
We've featured them many times. Yeah.
Yeah, we featured them a few times. They've got a basic, their basic Frontier whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey, and I think they've got a 10-year-old as well, which I haven't tried, and I see it around. It's a little bit more expensive. The regular BulleIT and the rye runs for this bottle was about $25, so it's not too expensive.
That's super affordable.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to get your hands on it too. It's their website is BulleIT BulleIT.com for all that information. Just some of the awards here for the BulleIT Rye, San Francisco World Spirits Competition in 2011 and 13 got a double gold, not just the gold, double gold.
Which you and I almost went to. At least not in 2011, but certainly.
Yeah, we almost did. There's another one coming up. You know what? I think it's a different event. It's the World of Whiskeys event.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, there's a lot of that stuff happening in San Francisco. But yeah, a lot of gold medals here. And the Ultimate Spirits Challenge, I got a 95 in 2014.
Wow.
And some tasting notes. It's russet in color. I think russet like a potato.
Yep.
With rich oaky aromas. The taste is exceptionally smooth with hints of vanilla, honey, and spice. Finish is crisp and clean with long lingering. I love a long lingering flavor,
Mm-hmm.
It's 90 proof, which is 45% ABV. I don't know what that is in Freedom gallons, but it is what it is. And I haven't even poured this yet because I was
Hard at
busy.
work.
I was pulling up the website while you were talking, and basically I'm going to pour while you talk about yours.
Roger that. So the Glenkinchie 12 is 43%, which is nice. I like to see a whiskey not because the bare minimum for a Scotch whiskey is 40%. I like to see someone release something higher than that. You know, it's better not to do just the minimum. And I gotta say, I absolutely underestimated this whiskey. This is a fantastic pairing. Now, I don't know that the cigar is doing much for the whiskey, but the whiskey is doing a lot for this cigar. It's got this really great dry finish, as they talk about, and that's fantastic because it really clears your palate between draws. And we've talked about this in previous shows with some spirits and some beers being a palate cleanser, and this is absolutely a spirit that is highlighting the cigar 100%. I take a puff of the cigar, I get some creamy notes, I get a little bit of toasted, like a toasted malty character, like you're talking about molasses earlier, so it's like almost a burnt molasses, which is really nice. A little bit of pepper lingering. I take a sip of the whiskey, I get the fruity notes. It's got a really nice mid-center, and then it's very dry finish, which is boom, my palate rebounds, and I'm ready for another puff of the cigar. These two are going really well together. I mean, it's, again, not doing much for the spirit, but it sure is doing a wonderful job of highlighting this cigar. How's that rye tasting going?
After a couple initial sips, really sweet up front, actually. You get a lot of that honey that they were talking about. A little bit of vanilla in there as well. But it's where it gets, for me at least, with rye, always gets me on the finish. Always, it's that spice right in the back of the throat there. And that's pretty pronounced here. Rye has become a lot more prevalent in my house. We've determined that Dana is a big fan, my wife Dana is a big fan of the rye whiskey. And we've got the BulleIT. She was gifted a bottle of BulleIT 7-year estate rye, which is a really nice bottle. Nice. I think that runs about $100 a bottle. And they had a class action lawsuit or something against Bevmo recently. It had something to do with their 5-cent sale. Now Bevmo will do their 5-cent sale on wines. So you go, these different wines are on the 5-cent sale. If it's $39, it's you $39.05 and you get 2 bottles. And there was some sort of class action lawsuit or something or other, and Dana got a cut of that. And so we used that. It was like a coupon. They give you. They didn't call it a gift certificate. It was like a one-shot deal. You had to use it at one time. So it was I forget how much it was, but we used that coupon and we bought a bottle of the Angel's Envy rye, which we've had our eyes on that for a while. We went to the San Francisco Spirits Festival and tasted that a couple of years ago, and really, really wanted to pick up a bottle there, but it was like 120 at the event. It's like, I don't really want to spend that much, and so we used this opportunity to buy that. But I digress. The BulleIT rye for the price is really tasty, and I think we've got a bottle of Dickel as well, which is another very approachable bottle. I think like $22. I use that for mixing mainly, but we use this for mixing as well. But it's very approachable in flavor profile. Sweet up front. It's got that spice on the finish. Pretty smooth. It's a little bit harsh at first because it is, like I said, it's 45%. So it's a little bit of a heater. But so far the flavors really are really, really nice. I haven't had a chance to pair it yet because I won't stop talking. So now I'm going to let you jump in.
Yeah, that's fair. As I said, I'm really enjoying this first pairing, but there is very much a drawing mouthfeel to the whiskey. And it is very much making me want to reach for this next beverage that I've got here, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm kind of climbing the ladder here. I'm going from whiskey to porter to stout. This is something I've not tried before. This is from Meantime Brewing Company. They are located in Greenwich, London, England, founded in 2000. They were acquired by SAB Miller in 2015. I really love the bottle presentation. It very much caught my eye, and I've heard from my local Kensington wine market, Sean there recommended this. It is pretty tasty, so I picked it up. It's been sitting and waiting specifically for this show. Now, when I poured it, it's not very, very dark and thick like a stout. So you can see it's got a little bit of opacity to it, but it's still darker. It's got a nice foamy head to it. I mean, this is kind of what I want out of a porter. So I'm hoping that the flavor profile matches the visual notes that I'm seeing here. It's 6.5% ABV, so kind of mid-range for a porter. They say that the natural mocha flavors of the 4 different roasted malts used to brew this rich dark beer are complemented by the addition of real chocolate during maturation. Hey, I dig that. Warm, complex, and smooth, it is a long, clean finish, and it is an ideal pairing with dessert or digestive beer. It's also a superb match for beef or game stew. So it sounds like it is a little bit more on the full-bodied spectrum, which is probably a good thing since we're pairing with a pretty full-bodied cigar here.
Absolutely. So I got a chance to take a few puffs, have a few sips here while you were talking.
Oh, baby.
This pairing is interesting. It does nothing for the cigar. The flavors that I get on the cigar on the tongue exactly the same. It's not. It doesn't. It's almost like it's not even impacted. The main impact I feel on the cigar is with the retrohale because that spice kicks in and there's that leftover spice from the rye and it's almost too much. Like it makes the retrohale almost too strong.
Oh, wow.
For me, you know when it can get too hot.
Yep.
It's too hot. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it got a little too hot on the retrohale for me, but really interesting on the right up front on the whiskey. You take that sip, it introduced a nice little cinnamon note that wasn't there before.
Oh, nice.
So you got kind of a cinnamon, honey, vanilla thing happening. Yeah, it was. It does. I think it does wonders for the whiskey, but the retrohale is for me is just a little bit too much. I almost think, and it's in retrospect of the retrohale, I should have gone with something a bit sweeter as opposed to something with some spice. I'm thinking of like a Basil Hayden's. It's a little bit sweeter, not quite as spicy. I think that would have been something nice, or even a nice sherried Scotch with a little bit more of that sweetness, you know.
Yep.
So it's a pairing that works, and even just a regular bourbon that's just not too spicy, I think would work out really, really nicely.
Just a reminder to the audience, you are tuned into Sharing Our Pairings, episode 60, Spotlight on Fable Cigars. We are smoking a delicious Fourth Prime from Fable Cigars, their first offering in the market. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, with my co-host, Robbie Rass, and we are broadcasting the Armed Forces Radio Network, heard around the world and on every podcast device in the world. Thanks for listening, whether you're tuned in live on the Armed Forces Radio Network or through your mobile device. We're just glad you tuned in. We're talking about some pairings here, and Robbie's talking about some rye pairing. I was talking a little bit about whiskey pairing, and I've moved on to this chocolate porter, and I gotta say, I am absolutely digging this chocolate porter. There's so many times where I'll have a chocolate porter or a chocolate stout. We've talked about this time and time again. I don't want a chocolate porter that's super thin, and it's, you can get a hint of chocolate. They wave the chocolate over top of the beverage, and really, I can't really get it. This has a wonderful porter start. It's got that nice malty coffee note. It's not too strong. It's complex and rich without being big and in your face like an imperial stout. And then this wonderful, wonderful rich chocolate to finish. And it's got an effervescent quality to it. So you get chocolate and effervescence. And again, we talk about palate cleanser. What a great way to finish the sip is I get this great chocolate in my mouthfeel, take a puff of the cigar, and it kind of mutes the pepper a little bit. Going really well, perhaps quite a bit better than the initial offering, and I was happy with my initial offering here.
So for my second pair, excuse me, I'm going with a beer from your neck of the woods, from Pints Brewing, and it's kind of hard for you to see with the glare from the lighting. This is the Stir Stick Stout, a little alliteration there, and this one was actually gifted to me by another Cigar Federation member, Fast Jimmy. Sent me a few of these when we got back from Cigar Safari last year. So this one's about
crazy Canadians.
Yeah, crazy Canadians. This one's almost a year old actually, and probably about 10 months it's been in my fridge. Looking at some of the specs here, they've got the specs here on the bottle. 5.6% ABV, 35 IBUs, so not very bitter. Although I'm getting some kind of bitterness from the cigar as I transition from the whiskey to the beer. So I'm going to give my palate a few minutes here to catch up. It's a coffee-infused stout with a chocolate aroma. Now, this is along the lines of it's not a chocolate stout, so they don't reference it as a chocolate stout, but it's got a chocolate aroma to it. There's not a lot of chocolate here at all. Definitely got the coffee notes, some bitter coffee, some kind of like a roasted coffee bean almost. That aroma that you get after you've when you make your espresso or something and you take the little pod thing out. I don't know what the little thing is called where you pack the espresso.
Puck.
Yeah, that you take that out and you get a whiff of that. That's the flavor that I'm getting here. But kind of bold, a little bit bitter, but bitter in a good way. A little bit of info on the beer itself here, just going from their website, halfpintsbrewing.com, and they are in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg
Good
is
old Winterpeg.
and that's in Manitoba.
It is
So,
cold, cold Manitoba.
cold. It's chilly over there, huh? Colder than where you are.
Brother, our winters have nothing. I mean, the coldest we get is sometimes the average cold of winter. We call it Winterpeg. We say it in a loving manner because we love the people of Manitoba, and a lot of people out in Alberta are from Manitoba. Man, I'll tell you what, some of the places in Manitoba have set world records for coldness, dropping down to below minus 60 degrees. Now, I'm not talking with wind chill. I'm talking below minus 60 degrees freedom without wind chill. So it can get pretty nuts there.
Yeah, that's that's tough. I remember talking to Jimmy, and I'm not sure if he lives in Winnipeg or not. I would imagine he's pretty close to it. But he said that where he lives, it's got one of the widest ranges of weather in the world as far as it gets super hot and then it gets super cold. I'm like, bro, you
gotta move, bro.
And I'm on the exact opposite end here in the Bay Area. It's like we get a couple of weeks. I'm a little bit more inland in the valley, so I get a little bit more heat, but it rarely ever gets cold here. But it's raining now though, and it's been raining for feels like months, which is great because we need it. A little bit of info on the Stir Stick Stout, which I just like saying. Let's see. It's robust with ruby highlights and a generous addition of locally roasted, fair trade, organic. Oh, this is some hipster stuff.
Hipster.
Ethiopian. Oh boy.
Is it Gethembwini?
Yurgachefe?
Oh, Yurgachev.
Oh, I almost got it right.
That's good stuff, man. That is. I mean, you know me. I'm a coffee nerd.
You're into it.
That is some fantastic coffee. It's got. Well, I'll let you talk about your spirit. We'll talk about it afterwards. It's really good.
That's fun. I love it when you get really excited about something. You have to check yourself. Oh, wait, hold on. The beans lend a distinct chocolate aroma and flavor to the blends, as well as roasted barley and malted sweetness. Woody bitterness rounds. Yeah, there's that bitterness I was talking about. Rounds out this ale and makes a perfect match for barbecued buffalo burgers. Oh, that sounds so good. Sweet desserts like chocolate lava cake. Yeah, baby. And vanilla ice cream as a decadent beer float. Oh, forget about it. Jimmy, you're going to have to send me some more of this, bro, because that sounds really good. Food pairings, they say try it with a bison burger, some chocolate cake, or vanilla ice cream. And serve it at 4 degrees centigrade, which is how many freedom degrees, John?
That'd be, what, 32 is freezing, so that'd be like 37 freedoms?
So cold. Yeah, so I cracked this open a little bit warm because my fridge is sitting back at about 10 degrees centigrade, which is...
Gosh, that would be, what, mid-40s? 40, 45,
47, 48, something like that.
Which is about right for a
stout. That's what I figured as far as everything that I've looked. I'm no expert, but everything that I've made that abundantly clear over the years. But everything that I've looked at says keep everything at that range. I'm trying to get some info on the brewery itself, but it doesn't seem to, like, when they were established and things like that. I mean, they tell me how they brew their beer, which I'd actually like to read some other time, but not a lot of info as far as the brewery itself. But Half Pints Brewing in Winnipeg, Manitoba, so if you're in the area, check them out. They've got a bunch of different things here. They've got some seasonal beers that look kind of interesting, and 4 standard kind of flagship beers, and the Stout is one of them.
So the Q&A...
Tell us about the coffee, yeah.
Yeah, so the Yurgachev, there's a lot of single source Ethiopian coffees that are really good. And what's interesting is you can get single source Ethiopian coffee that's very, very bright fruity. And then you can get something like a Yurgachev, which almost has a cinnamon quality to it. It's got like an herbal quality to it. It's got an earthy quality to it. It's more of an afternoon coffee. But I love Yurgachev. I mean, it's one of those coffees where you can roast it at different profiles. You can do a light roast, like a blonde roast. You can do a dark roast, and it's going to perform differently at different roast levels. You're going to get different flavors out of it, and it's just one of those coffees that, I keep going back to it, and every time I go back to it, I'm like, right, I remember how awesome this coffee is.
That's interesting. I'm getting a lot of... It's bringing out a nutty note on this cigar, which I wasn't getting before at all. A definite nutty flavor on the retrohale. I don't know if you're getting any of that.
I'm getting almost a citrus quality out of the cigar. The chocolate is really bringing this like a fruity citrus out of the midpoint of the cigar, which is funky but tasty.
It's interesting. I think that this cigar is kind of overpowering the beer a little bit because I'm getting that coffee on the finish big time, and I really like that. It goes really nicely with the cigar, which brings out that nutty note, which is a nice little, I don't know, sidetrack flavor that's probably going to go away here in a minute because I didn't experience that at all the first time I smoked these, if memory serves. But there's a tartness that I'm getting from this beer, like a sour tart note that's hitting the sides of the tongue. It's almost off-putting, and I think that has a lot to do with the cigar. I'm going to give it a few more pulls here and see. I think I would really enjoy this beer on its own. I think that I don't know, maybe it's the coffee or something that's kind of combating flavor wise that's combating each other here.
Well, I've been kicking the beehive here, asking people to post their Q&A questions because we did have an issue, or Google had an issue with the Q&A app earlier in the day. People weren't able to post. So now that we've got a ton of questions here, I'm just going to take it from the top. Trip Waldrop, who was fun to hang out with. Happy birthday, Trip, who celebrated his birthday while we were down at Cigar Safari, Nicaragua. He says, what do you guys think about Fable's decision to start marketing with us samplers last year? I'm gonna jump on that one. I think it's an awesome idea. I think the best thing a new company in the industry can do is have a 3 or 4 or 5 pack sampler, because it's very tough, and now I can speak from the industry perspective because I am a general manager for a chain of cigar stores. It's very, very tough for someone to go and drop a fiver or even a box split on a cigar that they have no idea about. The nice thing about having a sampler, not only can you try some of the cigars from that company, but you can try different vitolas, and this is a great chance to say, well, maybe I didn't like the Sapta, but maybe the Mersenne or the Me was within my ballpark. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I totally agree. This kind of reminds me of when Skip was first starting with Roma Craft, and I mean the packaging was even very similar. The cigars didn't have bands on them. They came in a Ziploc with a sticker. These came with 2 stickers actually. One that said Fable Cigars and one that said Fourth Prime. And when Skip originally did, the first time I bought some of the Cro-Magnon knuckle draggers from him, which is I think probably still my favorite cigar that he makes. That was how they were sent. It was a 4 or 5 pack of the same vitola, but the way that was explained to me, this was the best way for them to get samples out to folks to review, or for folks to try if they want to see if they want to bring them onto their store. I think it makes a lot of sense. Selling them direct from their website, I mean, I'm not a retailer, so that doesn't bother me, but I can see where that can rub some retailers the wrong way. I imagine that they'll probably stop selling on their site as soon as their cigars have actually been released, because it was really more of a soft release. You can't go buy a box. You can only buy these 4-pack samplers at the moment, as far as I know, and that's supposed to change in April, so in about a month. Other than that, and I mean, from a consumer standpoint, I love it. I think it's great. I think it gives you, like you said, a nice way to try all the different vitolas. I'm not committing to an expensive. I'm not having to split a box with somebody or whatever, because a lot of times, especially if you're buying online, you can't find them locally. You can't just buy one.
Yeah.
If your local shop has them, you can walk in and buy 1 or 2, but usually online you can't. So strictly from a consumer standpoint, I think it's great. Now, one thing they haven't really done is advertise too much that they're selling them on their site. So I would assume, and I have no inside knowledge on this, but I would assume that once the cigars are released in earnest, that sales on their website would probably cease. But I don't know. I could be speaking totally out of turn.
Boom. Well, check them out, fablecigars.com, and they've got a Facebook page. They've got more information about where they're going to be carried there. Moving right along, On Fawn says, how does the Fable compare to the Cro-Magnon or the Aquitaine, and what do you think of their 56 count box strategy? There was a little bit of chatter in the chat room before the show. I guess they're going to be releasing them as 56 count boxes, and I can say that it doesn't at all compare to the Cro-Magnon or the Aquitaine. Very, very different cigar, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I think Charlie made mention on his review that if someone told him it was made at Nicasuino, he wouldn't have been able to put his finger on it, and I think that's a good thing. You don't want a cigar that mirrors the stuff that Skip doing. You want a cigar that has its own profile, its own identity, and I think this definitely has its own identity. I mean, the wrapper and the packaging definitely reminiscent of like you said, Skip's earlier stuff, but it's not at all what I would describe as Skip's profile for blending. I think the 56 count box strategy is probably their attempt to say we're going to sell this through a B&M, and what we want to do is make it available at a particular price point for B&Ms. They're going to forego fancy packaging and basically put it in a bin in the humidor to allow people to pick up, fivers and singles, and it allows a little bit more flexibility in pricing. Any thoughts on any of that?
One thing I will point out, and I have this written in my review, so I assume it was true at the time. I don't know if this has changed. Excuse me. They will also be available in 28 count bundles. So the way that I read that is it's almost like when a cigar company makes them available in the big, I don't know what the box is called, or like the big boat where you can fill it. You can put a ton of cigars in there. Yep. And then when you want to refill it, you come back, you buy another bundle or two or whatever and refill that facing or whatever. You could know the terminology better than I could. But do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
I think that was similar. Fred did that with his the therapy cigars. Yep. I think.
So you've basically got an initial ordering, and then a B&M can order them, refill, and there's, again, I think a lot of people need to understand there's a lot of money that goes into packaging and boxing, and if you can pass this, and I think, especially if you're a newcomer in this market, it's aggressive, there's a lot of competitors out there, allows you to save a couple ducats, get your product out to the customer.
Yeah, absolutely, and it keeps the price point down for the most part. I mean, when I look at this, it told me that 56 count boxes, that's meant for your retailer to pick up a box and have it on display and refill. And the 28 count bundles, if you go and you smoke it and you enjoy it as a consumer, you pick up a 28 count bundle. That's the way that I read it. And to me, it makes sense, especially if you're trying to keep costs down. I mean, once you see that side of the business and you realize just how much it costs to put these bands on in these boxes. I mean, we all love 10 count boxes, but that gets expensive. Yep. So, I mean, I get it. I like it. I think it's, as long as it can, if I'm the consumer and I can take advantage of saving $1 or 50 cents or whatever per stick, I'm on board.
Bam. So I'm going to blaze through a couple more questions before we get into our break here and get into our next pairing segment. Douglas Shepard wants to know where the name Fable comes from. I don't know. I went on the website. I couldn't really find the origin of the name. Do you have any insights, Rob?
Oh, let's see. If I did, I would have written them in my review here. And it doesn't. It doesn't.
Very good.
Naga. I don't know.
Naga. Not going to be working here for too much longer.
Yeah.
Maybe a good question for when we have him on Cigar Chat.
I thought I hit mute before I coughed, and I didn't. Yeah, no, that's definitely something we could talk about. I think you talked about the Fourth Prime, where that comes from, but I'm not sure where the name Fable comes from.
Douglas has a follow-up question. He wants to know, how would this cigar pair with a winter white stout? Kind of a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, because I had the winter white stout on with Terrence Riley from Casada last week. So the Casada is more of a medium plus cigar. This is definitely a medium plus full, probably bordering well in the full category. It would run the white winter stout right over. This would not go well with the white winter stout. The porter, and I suspect my last pairing here, absolutely.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, this the white winter stout. It's funny, since you've said that, or since that show, I've seen a couple other references to white stouts. So it is a thing. I'm part of a homebrew group on Facebook, and one guy just made like a cinnamon white stout, and it sounded very interesting, but it doesn't sound anything like what you had. So
no,
I don't know. Maybe it was mislabeled. Who knows?
So I'm gonna hop into my last pairing because this one's been just calling out to me, John, drink me. And a brewery that we've talked about. So I'm not going to go too much about the brewery. Ballast Point, Victory at Sea. Good old porter with coffee vanilla. Now, it's an imperial porter, so it's 10% ABV. It's a heater. 60 IBUs. They say it gets most of its roasted flavor from coffee beans prepared locally at Cafe Calibre on 30th Street. Winter ales traditionally have a spice, and in this beer they chose vanilla to round out this very special big beer. The Imperial Porter is infused with 3/4 of an ounce of cold brewed coffee per pint. That seems like a lot of coffee. They recommend food pairings: pulled pork, chicken mole, or chicken mole. I don't know why I call it chicken mole. I should know better. Chicken mole and a German chocolate cake, which sounds really good right about now. I could really go for some German chocolate cake. What do you get going on for your last pairing? I'm gonna just sip and make noises while I'm in mute here because I know this is gonna be good.
So I'm going with another offering from Founders. I think this is probably the one that I have in my fridge that we haven't featured on a show yet. Is the Backwoods Bastard, which is an oak bourbon barrel aged version of their Dirty Bastard, and their Dirty Bastard it's a Scotch ale. So some info on the Backwoods Bastard: 11.6%.
Woohoo!
Heyo.
Heyo!
50 IBUs. The beer rating is 100, so apparently people like it.
Damn, son.
It comes out once a year. It's in November, and this falls under their. Is it seasonal? No, this is one of their specialty brews. No, it's not. It's one of their limited. It's under their limited, which also features the KBS and Devil Dancer and Harvest Ale, which I have not had. But available in November. It comes in 4-packs, and it's on draft. It's a 4-pack. I want to say it was about $18. So it's on the pricier side, not as expensive as the KBS, but I actually think it might even be better. It's really, really good.
Wow.
Expect lovely warm smells of single malt Scotch, oaky bourbon barrels, smoke, sweet caramel, roasted malts, and a bit of earthy spice, and something of dark fruit.
Medley, maybe?
No, Scintilla. Scintilla.
Bunch of wordsmithing going on there.
Yeah, or Scintilla. I don't know what that is. It's a kickback sipper made to excite the palate, and I will admit that it does excite my palate a little bit when I drink it. I haven't had a chance to take a sip, but as you can see, it's pretty dark, and it's got some kind of. It's not as dark as you. I think you can see a little bit in the lighting there. It's got kind of a red hue to it, and it's once you put it up to the light, it's definitely not as dark as like a stout. A lot of sweetness on the nose, though. But you do get a little bit of that peaty kind of Scotch nose that they're talking about. A little bit of kind of a spicy, earthy, with some underlying sweetness. So really, really interested to see how this pairing goes.
So I've been sipping on this Victory at Sea. It is everything I expected it to be. Tons and tons of coffee. Maybe even too much coffee, believe it or not, because the coffee really dominates the palate sort of at the middle of the taste all the way to the end, and you get lots of coffee to finish. The vanilla is there. It's got a lot of sweetness, and I think really the vanilla is there to balance out how much coffee it is. You can see it's dark and rich and thick, just how I like my Imperial Porters or Stouts. Goes really well with the cigar. I mean, this is definitely a cigar that's going to stand up to Stouts, Porters, as Robbie was saying, maybe a really heavy, sweet Scotch, something with a sherry finish or a sherry cask. Because it's a full-bodied cigar, it opens up the realm for some more full-bodied pairings. Because it's on the full realm, it's probably going to run over a lot of nuanced beverages. So root beer would probably go really well with this, but I don't know if Coke would go well, because I think Coke might be a little too spicy, a little too hot. But it's good. I mean, I'm really enjoying this cigar. This is my first experience with the Fourth Prime, and I got to say, this is right in my wheelhouse, 100%.
Yeah. When you start talking about other pairings, Dr. Pepper pops into my head. I don't know why. I don't know if that would be any good or not. But that's sweeter. It doesn't have that cola spice to it.
Yep.
That might be nice. From a coffee standpoint, in my mind, I'm thinking of like a cafe au lait with like a lot of cream and some sugar in there. Do you know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want to go with just a black coffee because I feel like there'd be too much combat.
Yeah.
And I don't like combat.
Too much full-bodiedness going on.
I don't like combat on my palate.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I always go back to the coffee that my wife and I had at Cafe Du Monde in New Orleans when we got the beignets. It was so hot that day, and it was like 90-something degrees. You remember what it was like there.
Oh, impressive.
And my wife she had this list of things that we had to do, and Cafe Du Monde was on there because it's total tourist trap. But the beignets were pretty legit, and the coffee I don't really do cream and sugar in my coffee, but this was like a cafe au lait. It's like half coffee and half milk, and so it's really light in color when you get it. A little bit of sugar in there, not too much, and it was really really good. So I think something like that, with a little bit of sweetness to it, might work. Now, as far as the Backwoods Bastard is concerned, it's funny. This was the pairing that I was worried the most about, and it's far and away the best. The There's that stewed fruit note that just there's a sweetness there and that deep stewed fruit, and there's a little bit of kind of oaky bourbon notes underneath that just play really really nicely with the spice and earthiness of the cigar. The retrohale picks up that spice again. It's bringing out more spice in the cigar because the spice is actually starting to kind of mellow out. I'm getting towards the midpoint here, but this pairing is a perfect balance of kind of sweet, kind of stewed fruit, some boozy notes, and then you back it up with some pepper from the cigar. Really, really nice.
So I'm going to get into another audience question here. We got a really interesting question from Aaron Merrill. This is more of a general cigar question. He wants to know, which do you frequently tend to buy more, singles, 5-packs, or boxes? And that's I don't think we really get that question a lot. I think for me, one of the nice perks of spending 45 hours a week working on cigar reviews and content is I get to try a lot of new product, and I get to do it as singles. And I don't think that's something that's really afforded to a lot of smokers out there, because singles, you can't. You could buy a sampler off a lot of sites, Cigar Federation, for example. You can make your own sampler. I know a lot of other sites and a lot of B&Ms. You can just, make a bunch of samplers. But what's nice for me is I get to try a cigar, and if I like it, maybe I'll go with a 5, or if I really like it, I absolutely go with a box. So I would say, to answer your question succinctly, 5-packs is probably my wheelhouse, because I've got a lot of boxes of sort of really premium stuff, and my box buys are really held for that really, really super awesome unicorn stuff.
Yeah, I'm in the I'm in the same camp with you. God, this is a really good pairing. Wow. Um, I'll get into it more. There's a coffee note that's starting to pop up in here. There's so much flavor going on in this beer. I'm telling you, if you haven't had the Backwoods Bastard from Founders, please, for the
I'm gonna
love
have to
of,
seek it out.
just track it down. If you like barrel aged stuff, if you don't like barrel aged stuff, then ignore it, because you're not going to like it. But there's that. I'm. They talk here on the back about sweet caramel and roasted malts, and maybe I'm the combination of that I'm confusing with coffee, but there's that stewed fruit in there. I can't get away from it, and I don't want to. It's almost jammy. I don't know. It reminds me of wine more so than beer, but it's an interesting beer. Doesn't When I drink it on its own, it doesn't really do that for me, but with this combination, it's working. Back to the question at hand. I'm definitely a 5-pack guy. I don't like to. I know a lot of the times we're forced to judge a cigar based on one. I don't like that. I don't like smoking one cigar and saying whether I like it or not. With every review that I do, I try to smoke at least 2. Sometimes I have that opportunity, sometimes I don't. But if I don't, then I go with what I can. But for me, if it's a cigar that I want to try, and based on the blend or the blenders, the origin, all that stuff, I feel like we've been doing this long enough, and I think a lot of people who are familiar with cigars can look at a blend and get an idea if that's something that they're going to like. And I'm more of a 5-pack guy. If I buy something, especially if it's a popular brand or whatever, I'll invest in a 5-pack, even if I haven't smoked it. And if I enjoy it, great. If not, then I can trade the others away, or whatever. That's what's great about Cigar Federation, is you have that opportunity to trade stuff for guys that maybe somebody wanted to buy some and they missed out, so you can trade a couple to them or whatever. That's kind of the way that I approach things. But again, that depends on price point. If it's a $15 cigar and I want to try it, I'm not buying a 5-pack. I'll buy one and go from there. I mean, if it's a $15 cigar and I buy one and I can't develop an opinion from that, then it shouldn't be $15, in my opinion.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's how I feel.
So we're kind of coming up shortly to the end of our Armed Forces Radio Network segment. It always seems to go so quick. This Victory at Sea is fantastic. It's an interesting counterpoint to the chocolate porter from Meantime Brewing, because Meantime Brewing is really the Victory at Sea sort of light, and I think in a way that's really good, because for me, the chocolate porter highlights the cigar, and you were talking a little bit about flavors combating, and I feel like the Victory at Sea is such a full-bodied I mean, it's an imperial porter, but it's so full-bodied that it almost competes with the cigar in terms of flavor profile. So I take a sip of the beer. It's got so much going on. I take a sip of the cigar. Take a puff of the cigar, and I feel like some of the characteristics, some of the subtle nuances, and there are some subtle nuances, even though it's a full-bodied cigar, maybe get run over. So for me, I think my best pairing of the night, believe it or not, was the Meantime Brewing Chocolate Porter. I think that probably highlights the cigar the best for me.
Yeah, for me, an absolute no-brainer. It's this Backwoods Bastard. And this is by far the most full-bodied beer that I've had, or full-bodied beverage, really, that I've had tonight. So in a way, I agree with what you're saying, but then I guess I disagree too, because this is the fullest body that I've had, and I feel like it's the best pairing. But at the same time, the flavors are so different from what I'm getting from the cigar that I feel like everything kind of works out. That stewed fruit right up front with oak, a little bit of caramel sweetness in there, and that malty backbone goes really, really well with the earthy and spicy notes of the cigar. I think the cigar loses a little bit of richness, but I think the beer is rich enough that I'm not missing it. So for me, this is the best pairing. Now I've got a question for you, because we got, what, 2 minutes left? One
About a
minute?
minute and a half, yeah.
I noticed, and maybe I noticed this more tonight because we're drinking bigger stuff, but I like to take a couple of sips of water in between, not necessarily just in between different beers, but I just took a couple of sips of water before I went back to the Backwoods Bastard. Do you find yourself doing that when you're pairing?
Yeah, when I typically do cigar pairing for review, and Jose Blanco talks about this a lot, and I think it's really good information, is to have a soda water, because the effervescence of the carbonation of the soda water really cleanses your palate. Tough to do for me on a pairing show because we're going so fast. You know, we've got 3 beverages to fit in an hour. We're trying not to get the show running too long. But I think ideally you do want to cleanse your palate, because it's tough for you know, when I do whiskey tasting, it's really tough to go from one beverage to another, especially when they're dramatically different, and get fresh stuff out of that. It tends to get a little muddled as time goes on.
Yeah, I just think for me, just in a standard pairing, I could just be pairing one thing. You know, maybe I sat down with a Fable and a Backwoods Bastard here and was just going to have a grand old time. I'd still be sipping water in the middle.
Yeah.
And I mean, we never really talked about it, but I think it does kind of keep, like you say, it keeps your palate fresh. So it's not a bad idea to just have some water around whenever you're pairing stuff. Just a thought.
So we'll be back next week. I'm pretty excited for next week's show. Sharing our pairings, Thorogood and Nomad. We're going to have Fred Rui on, which will be a great time. Fred's such a good guy. I love his cigars. We're going to be pairing a bourbon, 1 Scotch, and 1 beer. As per the Thorogood song, which is where the title comes from. Tomorrow night, Cigar Chat, you and Logie are going to have Jeff from Crux on. That'll be a lot of fun. And then you guys are back at an early time on Monday. I kind of feel like you guys should do the Rob and Logan show for Monday. I feel like that would be the perfect time to do it.
Do we have a? I'll look. I'll have to double check. I don't think we have a guest.
You do not.
So yeah, I think that was the plan. And we're going on Monday because Wednesday is St. Patrick's Day. So I just figured we'd take St. Patrick's Day off.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Boom. All right. Thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in live to our show. All our podcast listeners out there, appreciate. And, of course, our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners out there, keeping us safe wherever we are in the world. Thanks very much for tuning in. And as we always say, or have started to say, drink better, but drink less. So we don't have a lot of time here in our After Dark segment, because I know you've got tons of shit to work on.
I got some shit going.
You got some shit going. This is a fun show. Thanks very much to Fable for sending us a 4-pack sampler. I'm really gonna dig. I think this might be one of the things, and I know we've got some Redux pairings we're gonna probably do on the show. I think Quattro Cinco is high on that list. Go back and do some Quattro Cinco. I think Fable is gonna be one of those ones where you have to come back and maybe have some fun, do some bourbons, or who knows, switch it up with some ports.
Port would be interesting after having. It's funny you said that. After having this Backwood Bastard and that stewed fruit, which I mean you get a little bit of that from port too. This beer actually has some port-like qualities to it, so that might be really, really interesting. And God, I almost feel like you could pair this with a nice red wine.
I could see
So
that.
maybe we could do like a port and wine show, so that way we don't have to crack open 3 bottles of wine. But yeah, I could definitely, and I could even do. I think we could even do a Scotch specific show with this, and do some, or maybe we do a port, wine, and a sherried Scotch.
I like it. I
That
like
might,
where your head's at.
yeah, that might not be bad.
I can dig it.
And yeah, I mean, these I'm digging the cigar, and this one doesn't have that kind of meltdown the last one had in the third, in the final third. And I'm curious to see if you'll have that experience. Um, but with the size that I smoked, that final third, it got a little funky, but it was still the first 2/3 of the cigar were so good that it was still worth to me to pick up a 5-pack in the hopes that. Even if they just performed, if I bought a 5-pack and they all performed that way, I'd still be okay with it because it'd still be worth it for me to smoke the first 2/3 of the cigar. It's that good.
Yeah.
But again, and this is also a cigar that's way out of my wheelhouse too. And sometimes, I want kind of a powerhouse. I don't know if I'd call this a powerhouse, but a stronger cigar with more spice to it, which is, like I said, usually outside of my wheelhouse. But for some reason, there's something about this particular blend that tickles me in a place that I like to be tickled.
Heyo. No, I would definitely say this is a powerhouse. I mean, not to take anything away. This is, I think we're getting so used to smoking full-bodied cigars. This is absolutely a full-bodied cigar. It could probably be a little intimidating for the first half to 3/4 inch because, I mean, there is a lot of spice and pepper up front, and I think if you're not a spice and pepper kind of person, I know that's not really your gig. Once you get past that, there's a lot of creamy notes going on. There's that sort of rich molasses that's going on. This cigar has a lot to offer. As a first offering from Fable, I got to say, really dig this cigar. This is quite tasty. I'm very much looking forward to. I think what I'll probably do with one of my other samplers from them is do a couple different funky pairings, save one for another show, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be in my rotation for sure.
Yeah, and to answer your question earlier, I don't believe Logan has smoked this yet. If he has, he tracked down samples on his own. Because I was able to get two sample packs, for review and for the show. So
Nice.
that was all they had at the time. Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's out of my wheelhouse. There weren't any reviews, I think, at the time that I smoked it, so I didn't really have a heads up. But I mean, they market it as a full-bodied, full-strength cigar, so obviously I anticipated that. And given that it's coming out of Nica Sueño, I assumed, or Nica, is it Sueño?
Nica
or
Sueño, yeah.
Nica Sueño, I got it right.
Nica
I wasn't sure if
Sueño.
said it right, but I assumed that it was going to be a strong cigar. And you're probably right. I think for the average smoker, this is definitely a full-strength cigar. For me, I put it more like a full minus, medium plus.
Yeah.
But it's definitely full bodied. So there's a lot of flavor there. There's a lot of spice to it. It does mellow out in the middle. And I mean, the burn is really nice. I've had to retouch mine a few times because I talk too much. But are you getting any creaminess out of there? There was kind of a creamy quality. Yeah.
Yeah. Once I got past the first third, the middle third was just so creamy.
Yeah.
Which I dig.
Yeah, it's a real nice cigar, nice complexity. And I would like to, maybe after IPCPR, I assume that they're going to be there and they'll have, the cigar will have a little bit more time on it. Maybe do a Redux review at that point because I have a feeling that it's going to go up in my scoring here because yeah, it's a real nice cigar.
So what I'm super excited about, as you can see, I've got a fair amount of light now because we're getting into the time where all of a sudden I get an extra 10 or 15 minutes of light every night. And of course, we're going into daylight savings time this weekend. So that'll be awesome. Yeah, it's going to be awesome because that means that, we can start to slowly return to our regular normal time of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. So next Wednesday, we are going to be starting at a regular normal time of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to start a little bit earlier the week after that with Coop, because Coop is on the East Coast, so we don't want to keep him up too late. But yeah, we'll starting our shows at the normal time of 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. And as you can see, I don't have my hoodie or my toque on.
Or your beard.
Or my beard, yeah. beard got axed. It had its year.
Yeah, the little like as you shave photo collage that you posted up on Facebook was creepy as hell, man.
Creepy as fuck. It's not often that like, because I said, well, obviously, shaving a beard that I've had for a year, I want to kind of go through and have a little fun with it. So I went through, and nobody cares at this point who's listening, but so I did like the goatee, which looked like I was some sort of like if I ever wanted to sell drugs, that would be the facial hair I'd have, because that facial hair said, yeah, if you want to hook up, I'm your guy. I had the sort of who's that guy that does well, anyways, Howie Mandel has a little soul patch. I kind of went with the soul patch and the cop stash. That was awful, just terrible. But nothing really compared to the as my girlfriend said, she said, keep the stash if you ever want to be an undercover narcotics officer, because it just says, hi, my name is John and I'm on the force, because that was like a perfect 80s 90s cop stash.
Yeah, I'm John, and no matter what I say, yes, I am a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. The beard doesn't look so good in this light. I trimmed it up a little bit, but I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. But when I do, I think it might be one of those where I keep the stash, like, just right about there, just to see how it looks.
The dirty stash.
Yeah, just to see how it looks. I don't think that's gonna stick, but yeah, no, I'm pretty comfortable with the beard. I'm ready to cut my hair, though. I'll tell you that.
I bet.
You can't see it because I've got full blown man bun, and it's not a fashion statement. So the next time you see a guy with a man bun, don't necessarily just assume that he's like some hipster guy who's just trying to be cool. Maybe he's growing his hair out to donate it to kids with cancer. You just never know.
Don't judge.
Don't judge. You just never know.
So just throwing it out there, if you guys need a third co-host on Monday night to shoot the shit with, Monday nights I can do, no problem.
Yeah, well, I guess I should make that official that that's actually what that show is going to be, and maybe we can plan. Because last time it was totally impromptu, and it was just Logan and I. That was actually supposed to be the Vivalo Cigar Company show, but
now we know why.
Now we know why it was canceled, because he's now employed by La Polina. It was good for him.
Yep.
And then La Polina went and lowered their prices too. So they're making some moves over there at La Polina, which is interesting. But last time it was totally impromptu, and we didn't really have anything to talk about. So maybe we'll try to talk about some specific cigars, smoke something specific, something along those lines. But yeah, thank you for reminding me that it was on Monday, because I probably would have forgotten.
Well, I mean, I got to keep an eye on the schedule now, because we are getting into that time. It's baseball season, and we're planning the pairing show out 3.5, 4 months now. So I'm looking at the schedule. We've got Paul Asadorian from Stogie Geeks is going to be on. So I'm kind of working with the timeline there to make sure I give you enough time to get home from the ballpark, as it were.
Yeah, what day is that?
Gosh, that's like mid-May. Might be May 14th.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that wasn't opening day. Yeah, I'm looking at this, and I need to get on booking some Cigar Chat guests, because we've got Atelier booked for Monday the 28th, because that Thursday I'm at the ballpark.
Are you guys having Casper on?
Casper and I think Dan and Casey are going to be on as well.
That's going to be a good show.
The whole crew. So I'm not sure if that one's going to make it onto the AFRN or not. We'll see.
We'll see. Can only beep it so much before it's just a lost cause. When Logan drops his sixth fuck after 10 minutes, it's a lost cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Although sometimes those are fun. It's like back in the early 90s listening to like a Tupac song on the radio.
That's
where
right.
It's like it goes a good 30 seconds without anybody saying anything.
Yeah.
Because it's all bleeped out. You're just listening to the beat and you're like, what happened? Oh, well, here it comes back. Yeah. Because he was talking about fucking your mom and shooting your bitch or something. But
Yep.
I do like some Tupac, but that was just an example. What was the song that I just listened to? Hit 'Em Up, which is one of those battle rap songs with Biggie. That's the song that I was thinking of. And
So
almost
angry.
quoted. Yeah, there's a lot of beeping going on in that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks very much for all of our audience who have stuck around for the live show. Sometimes we
And they're
go a
still
little
there. I
crazy.
can see
And
them.
they're still there, still hanging out, listening to us just blah, blah, blah on as we drink and smoke. And all our podcast listeners out there, we know you guys are out there in droves and you keep growing. We appreciate it. We're going to have some really cool coverage over the next few months as we lead up to IPCPR. And then when we hit the IPCPR, it's going to go gangbusters. And as we say on Sharing Our Pairings, especially this one, drink better, but drink less.